Good evening and welcome. This is English Talks.
Let me ask you something. When was the last time you said, I'm fine, while everything inside you screamed otherwise? When was the last time you smiled in public, but cried quietly in a bathroom stall? You see, some people carry their burdens like bruises, visible and raw. But others, they carry them like backpacks, hidden, zipped up, and out of sight. But oh, so heavy. So today's story is of those backpacks and a girl who carried hers until she almost collapsed, but didn't. According to Lou Holtz, it's not the load that breaks you, it's the way you carry it. Meera was 22, a final year architecture student living in a rented one room flat in Pune with a mother and a younger brother. Most of her classmates thought she was just a responsible girl. The kind of girl who got things done on time, stayed up to date with submissions, kept her workplace clean, and remembered to bring extra stationery to school. No one never noticed the dark circles deepening under her eyes or how she wore the same two pairs of jeans on rotation. Her day began at 5 a.m. She worked the night shift at a BPO and barely managed 4 hours of sleep before attending her classes. After college, she picked up groceries, cooked, helped her brother with homework, sat by her mother's bedside massaging her legs, sometimes helping her to the bathroom, sometimes just sitting in silence. Her mother had been diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer, and she had suffered. Their father had walked out long before that. She hadn't heard from him in 5 years. She never spoke about it, not even to herself. He had left without warning. One evening, he was there, eating quietly at the dinner table, nodding along to the news. The next morning, gone. No note, no explanation, just an empty drawer, an unreachable phone number, and the sound of her mother not asking questions. Not because she had answers, but because she was too tired to go looking for them. At first, Meera tried to rationalize it. Maybe he needed space, maybe he was overwhelmed. But after the first month passed, after she'd stopped checking her phone every day for a message that never came, that hope turned into something heavier. It hit her. He had planned it. He had chosen to leave, chosen not to say goodbye, not even to his children. The betrayal was so sharp it numbed her. For years she avoided thinking about him. She couldn't afford to. That was too much to do, too many holes to plug. But that numbness settled inside her, quietly shaping everything. How she trusted people, how she refused to lean on anyone, and how she handled pain. Somewhere deep down, she believed that if she ever depended on someone again, they'd leave too. That belief became her backbone, brittle but functional. She stopped expecting rescue, and she certainly never asked for it. The pressure came from all directions: home, academics, finances, her own suppressed ambitions. Some nights her hands would tremble from exhaustion as she tried to draw neat lines on tracing paper. Still, she kept going. Not because she had some reservoir of endless strength, but because she had no other choice. The house ran on her salary. Her brother relied on her for everything, and her mother had stopped believing in future. She often thought to herself as a dam, cracked in too many places. But as long as she kept stuffing rags into the crack, the water wouldn't spill over. That was the goal, to keep the dam from bursting. For a long time it worked, but slowly the cracks deepened. She missed a class presentation for the first time. Then a shift at work. Her brother's school called home to complain about late fee. She started forgetting things, friend's birthday, an important form, a medical bill. Then during a site visit of her final year project, she collapsed. It was a small blackout. The professors assumed it was a heat stroke. But Meera knew better. She hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. She hadn't slept properly in 2 weeks. When she came home that evening, she found the electricity cut again. Her mother was sitting in the dark and her brother had left his tuition's class halfway, unable to concentrate. The flat smelled faintly of antiseptic and old food. Meera stood by the door for a long time, staring at the scene completely still. She then put her bag down, turned off her phone, and lay on the floor, too tired to cry, too numb to speak. The days that followed blurred together. She stopped going to college, stopped picking up her calls from work. She felt herself slipping, not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, like falling asleep underwater. One evening, while returning from the hospital pharmacy, she found a woman sitting on the curb just outside the building. She was older, maybe in her 40s, wearing an old shawl, sipping some tea from a paper cup. Meera had seen her before, another regular visitor to the hospital, always carrying medical files, always sitting alone. They didn't speak, but the woman smiled faintly and offered Meera the bench space next to her. Meera sat down, not out of politeness, but because she had no strength left to keep walking. They sat quietly for nearly 15 minutes, just two strangers surrounded by honking cars, cheap tea, the smell of iodine, and dust. Eventually, the woman left. But when Meera stood up, she noticed something had been left behind, a thin notebook with pages torn from the middle. On the cover, scribbled in pencil, was a line. "It's not the load that breaks you, it's the way you carry it." She slipped the notebook into her bag without thinking too much. It wasn't until the next day, when the power turned briefly and her brother had gone to school, that she opened it. Inside were pages, not many, filled with brief entries. Some were dated, some weren't. They talked about hospital visits, pain, money struggles, loneliness, but the tone wasn't desperate. It was patient, practical. There were underlined words like breathe and don't do everything in one day. At the end of one page was a single instruction. Choose one stone to carry today, leave the others for tomorrow. The notebook changed something, not in a dramatic, movie-like way, but it gave her a shift in perspective. She realized that she had been trying to carry the entire mountain. Her mother's illness, her brother's future, their rent, her grades, her job, their meals, all at once. The notebook reminded her to carry it differently. So she chose just one stone that day. She cooked a proper meal and didn't worry about the unfinished model. The next day, she went to her college and requested a meeting with the head of the department. She explained her situation in detail, something she had never done before. No emotion, no drama, just the facts. He listened. He adjusted deadlines, assigned a mentor to support her projects from a distance. She was given flexible attendance. She called her workplace and applied for an official break. They refused, citing policy, so she quit. The next day, she contacted a local design studio that did freelance 3D modeling work and asked if they had short-term projects. They sent her a small assignment. It paid less, but it was flexible. Her mother noticed the shift too, in small ways. Meera started talking more, eating more, and sometimes laughing. Not because life was easier, but because she had finally stopped dragging the entire weight of it in silence. A few weeks later, her college held a jury review. Meera submitted her model, not perfect, not elaborate, but clean, thoughtful, and honest. The feedback was decent, nothing groundbreaking, but for the first time she felt proud of her work. Months passed. Her mother's condition stabilized. Her brother topped his class. Meera graduated, not with a medal, but with her head held high. A year later, while cleaning out her bag, she found the notebook again. She decided to return it to the hospital in case the woman ever came back. But when she asked at the reception, they told her that the woman had died months ago. She had been there for her daughter, a girl around Meera's age, who hadn't made it. Meera stood still, notebook in hand, unsure what to feel. The woman had carried loss far heavier than hers and still found space to leave kindness for a stranger. That was the twist. The woman, who had reminded her not to collapse under own weight, had done so after losing everything. That day, Meera walked out of the hospital and gave the notebook to another girl sitting alone by the entrance. She didn't explain, just handed it over and walked away. Meera now works as a junior architect. She designs community housing, particularly for women-led households. She still has days when things feel too heavy, but she always remembers the line. It's not the load that breaks you, it's the way you carry it. And some loads, not matter how heavy, are carried better when shared, even for a moment, by a stranger. This is Vandana reminding you that strength isn't about silence or suffering. It's about knowing when to pause, when to ask, and when to say, I can't carry it all today. I'll try again tomorrow. Stay kind, stay human, and maybe carry one pebble at a time.
This program was brought to you by Akashvani, Bengaluru.